So have you ever heard the word coaching and gone like, oh, this is just like snake oil salesmen and people who don't know what they're doing, or people who failed psychotherapy school and they're just like trying to put on their life advice on you where they actually don't know anything. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever felt that this whole industry, this whole self-help, coaching, mentoring industry is just sort of fake or fraud, and you never had this trust or belief in it? And I know I have, and some of my friends have. And in this video, I'm going to talk about coaching. And in this video, I'm going to talk in detail about it. I've had years and hours worth of coaching. I've also had years and hours worth of therapy. So I think I'm in a good position to compare and contrast. So grab a cup of tea and let's talk a bit about coaching. So let's start with the basics. What is coaching? Who is the coach? Who gets to call themselves a coach? And what are the benefits they try to bring in? How does that differ from therapy? We'll come to that in a bit. So what is coaching? So I don't think there's any particular definition for it that sort of encapsulates what modern day coaching is. But think of sports coaches, the most standard vanilla kind of coaches that there are. What do sports coaches do? They coach a team to win. They coach an athlete to perform. There might be a voice coach who teaches all of these big singers that you see, by the way. They almost all have voice coaches, or they've had voice coaches. And then there is coaching for quote unquote life, which counts perhaps financial coaching, like how should you manage your finances. It probably counts leadership coaching. So how should you lead your organization or your colleagues or whatever capacity you happen to be leading in. And that is more formal executive style of leadership, where I believe we're all leading ourselves, at least in some ways. And then there is other styles of coaching which might be considered more self-helpy, or meditation coach, for example. Therapy can be often practiced in a coaching style environment, something I am a big fan of. So coaching, broadly speaking, is this whole broad industry where you're asking someone to guide you through a situation. Now that coach could do many things. They could offer you clarity. They can help you talk through decisions. They can help you practice something. So in terms of like sports coaching. So all of this is great. But the problem with coaching tends to be that it is not a regulated industry. Coaching is not a regulated industry. So anyone can theoretically call themselves a coach. There is nothing stopping anyone to go on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I'm a life coach. And that's where the problem comes in. That's where all the coaching's bad reputation comes from. Now, so if anyone has the ability to call themselves a coach, especially a life coach, then obviously there'll be a lot of people who are not good, they are not skilled, and they're not capable. They don't know what they're doing. And so that's where the difference comes between a good coach and someone who's just calling themselves a coach, even if they did some training for that matter, because there's no standardized body that is certifying coaches. Like, so for example, if you want to be a surgeon, there is only a certain bodies that can grant you that skills and the credibility and the certification to be a surgeon. With coaching, that's not the case. I could start up my school for coaching, and then people can call themselves some guru certified coach. There are some people who do that. And so I think the problem and, well, the solution, I suppose, with coaching comes with this. The onus of responsibility is on the hands of the recipient, on the client, on you if you're seeking coaching. You have to know if the person you're getting coaching from is actually legitimate, or are they just pretending? Are they just a snake oil sort of a salesperson there? And you can't just Google a coach and just find the first person and then talk to them in a way that you might be able to do with a therapist. But with coaching, you cannot. And even their degrees, their qualifications, you have to take that with a pinch of salt. Even if it's Tony Robbins qualified coach, well, sure, that tells you something that Tony Robbins had some syllabus going on, but it doesn't really tell you about how good they themselves are. Are they able to listen well? Are they able to have a clear head and problem solve? And how does coaching differ from therapy? So in terms of this life coaching area, we're talking about behaviors and your mental sanity or confidence or putting yourself out there. For me, for eliminating my social anxiety, I did years and years and years of therapy. But in coaching, it was solved like that. And the reason for that was coaching placed a lot of emphasis on action, on going out in the real world. And I think this is why coaching has a massive advantage over therapy, which is therapy is inherently armchair based. Well, of course, there can be some homeworks and things like that, but it's not heavily biased on the side of the real world. And I think coaching is fundamentally based on this insight that in order to truly heal, in order to truly be confident, or in order to truly shine mentally, you have to interact with the real world. Just armchair philosophizing, even armchair therapy is not enough. I'm a big fan of therapy, don't get me wrong, and it's absolutely important and critical even, non-negotiable even, but it's not sufficient on its own. So let's take the example of social anxiety. If I have social anxiety and if I want to build myself up so that I don't have it anymore, it's extremely important that I do journal exercises. It's extremely important that I challenge my negative/distorted beliefs in a way that CBT might make me do. It's extremely important that I have self-compassion, and if I'm not able to do what I want, I'm kind to myself. All of that is extremely important. But I can only say that I have totally eliminated social anxiety, or reduced it for that matter, is when I go out and talk to people. And that's where a coach might be very skilled, especially if they're combining it with therapy. Then that's just the best thing ever. And you will see that a lot of these therapy schools like IFS therapy are offering therapy certifications for coaches. And I think that's just like a killer combination. But anyway, the coach would place more emphasis, or at least encourage me enough, to go out and actually talk to people. All the inner work is great and it's important. And what's needed is that outer going out and actually taking that risk, actually going out and talking to that person. And again, it's not to say that therapists will not emphasize this. It just might not be the center of their training, whereas a coach might be more better positioned to suggest that as an action step and holding you accountable for that. So that's one example of how a coach can be useful. So now let's wrap this video thinking about how you could consider getting coaching, and how do I look out for coaches. So I've had coaching in multiple areas, some more in a real-time environment, some more online courses style of coaching with some support. And I think the best measure and the best gauge of how to find a coach is actually to consume a lot of their content. If someone is a good coach, it's highly unlikely that they do not have any content out there. By content, I mean books, YouTube, podcasts. They might have a newsletter. So there could be various ways in which they share their knowledge, but almost everyone I know who's a good coach today produces a lot of content and gives it away for free. And this is not just because it's good for the world for them to post good things out there, but it's also because it's a good business strategy. Because if your message is good, if you're really that good that you can set up your own independent practice, then you have a lot of content to give out, and that content will actually go to people and you'll get more businesses. So actually a lot of successful coaches I know give away their books for free, give away a lot of their material for free. And so that would be my number one suggestion on how to select a coach, that you have to consume a lot of their content, and through that you have to establish their credibility. And in a way, this is better than having a degree, having some certificate, because this is direct credibility. This is you're seeing them for what they're promising they are good at. You are hearing their voice, perhaps. You're reading the words they have written. And that is the best way of determining credibility, because you're actually seeing what they're promising they're good at. And then you get to judge them based on their substance, not just based on their titles, not just because they have a doctor in front of them, not just because some board approve it, but because you resonate with the content, because you think that this is good content and this is worth investing in. And that is how I would select a coach if I were to start over again. Now, what style of coaching to select? Well, that depends on your problem, right? Right now, I'm quite into the creator social space, so I'm looking out a lot into marketing. Brendan Mushard is something I'm currently consuming, but really, I've looked into Jeff Walker's work. I've worked with Aziz Gazipura on more of my social anxiety stuff, and then I've been more into like more course watching more with many that I can't even list here. One of the advantage of coaching, and this is what I'll wrap with, is that it can significantly reduce your time to mastery. So if you want to master something, sure, you can do it all alone. But what coaching can do is save you a lot of that learning curve. It can save you a lot of mistakes that you would make otherwise. So effectively, coaching is a massive time saver, which is why you might find that coaching typically, especially with a good coach, is way more expensive than therapy. And the reason for that is, especially at the established levels where people are coaching like multimillionaires or billionaires or heads of states or something like that, those kinds of coaches, your Tony Robbins of the world, their time is extremely worth a lot. Whether or not you actually agree with them, this is just more like what people are willing to pay for their time. And the reason why that seems to be justified is because people who get in contact with these coaches, theoretically, they should save more in time and money if they're a financial coach than if they were to just figure it out all alone. So the opportunity cost of not getting a coach might be higher. In general, a good coach will save you a lot of time, much more than what you're going to pay in money. So those are some thoughts on coaching. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you.